Migration has oftentimes been used as a weapon of subversion, a weapon to overwhelm an enemy, a weapon to divide an enemy, a weapon to sow chaos.
Well, you do have a chapter at the end of the book that tries to do that. And I mean, as I was looking through that, some of it is around shifting the incentive structures of people coming here. So, a big part of what you talk about when it comes to the CCP's weaponization of migration is this birth tourism.
Yes.
So, fascinating, shocking, and deeply disturbing examples. But here's the rub, right? You suggest, I think, that it could be there's 1 million American citizens, 500,000 to 1 million American citizens who have their allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party. Could be.
Yes.
And how do you get that number? I mean, that's a really large number of people.
I agree, it's a really large number of people, and I was shocked by it. The birthright citizenship issue to me is really central because it is a massive vulnerability and it's something that can be fixed. We'll see what the Supreme Court is going to settle on this. But the important thing I think for people to understand is the Chinese government, the CCP, is using birth tourism on an industrial scale. They are exploiting it on an industrial scale. So what do I mean? Well, any numbers that we have related to how many Chinese nationals are flying to the United States, giving birth here, and then flying home with the baby, raising them in communist China, and then when they turn 18, they're going to be citizens, they can vote and do everything. Our federal government has no idea. We don't track this information because you're given a birth certificate when your child is born here, whether you're an American citizen, whether you're a Chinese birth tourist, you get a birth certificate does not list the nationality of the parents. Nobody tracks this. So our federal government says we have no idea. The number of 500,000 to 1 million, maybe more, comes actually from China. The Chinese government has looked at this and estimates, the Chinese government and some research firms say that over the past roughly 13 years, you have anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 Chinese nationals a year doing this for 13 years, which is stunning. And there's a lot of anecdotal evidence to support this in addition to the data from China. Reports of, these flights from Los Angeles, LAX to Shanghai, where the entire business section is largely populated by newborn babies. So it's a huge problem. And I think we have to dispel the idea that birth tourism or birthright citizenship, I should say, is just something, somebody comes across the border, they make a life here, they're here for 20 years, they have a couple of kids. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about very systematic, and we're talking about something China did in Hong Kong for a while. It reached the point around 2010 that half of all newborns in Hong Kong were Chinese nationals getting birthright citizenship in Hong Kong. The government had to stop it. The government in Hong Kong at that point had to stop it because they said, this is subversion. We can't allow this to go on. Something similar is playing out in the United States. What it really comes down to is local governments who are issuing birth certificates, locations of birth. Nobody's collecting that data, and nobody is including the nationality of the parents. And which would seem like it would be an obvious thing to do.
Right.
So that would be beginning reform. I'm really hoping that when the Supreme Court looks at this issue of birthright citizenship, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to guess in legal details, but I do think that they would look at the fact that if you are going to have some form of birthright citizenship, the notion that somebody can literally drop off their pregnant wife, gives birth here, and as soon as the baby is able to get on a plane, you're flying back to China, that the 14th Amendment, which talks about under the legal jurisdiction thereof, would not apply.
Right.
If you snuck across the border, you've been here for 15 years, you gave birth, you've got a 5-year-old, I think people might be more understanding. But this mass industrial scale, it's a huge, huge industry. Not to even mention the issue of surrogacy, which is an offshoot of that, where you have politically connected elites in China who are hiring women in the United States to carry their children. They call them carriers. And these women, they're American citizens. They're paid $50,000, $60,000 They get the sperm, or maybe sometimes the sperm and the egg from a couple in China. The child is born here. The child is born here is not only getting citizenship because of birthright citizenship, they're getting it because the birth mother is an American citizen. And we have no numbers on that. We have a couple of anecdotal stories. We have a case the Wall Street Journal mentioned of one single man, a billionaire in China, who, according to the Wall Street Journal, has more than 100 children born this way that are presumably going to be American citizens. So it's a massive, massive vulnerability, and we've got to wake up to it.
Tell me about UN USA.
Yeah, UN USA is one of these birth tourism companies. And what they do is they have websites. They freely advertise in China. I mean, here's the mystery point. I think we know the answer in explaining the motive of why China's doing this. But China began running articles in the People's Daily, the flagship publication of the CCP, began running articles in 2011 about how you have a right to do this. They're telling Chinese elites, you have a right to go to the United States. The 14th Amendment is going to make sure that your child will be a U.S. citizen. And so the first question would be is, why are they actually advertising this? And I think we know because
And I'll just qualify here. This means that this is the regime saying, we want you to know this.
Yes.
And we want you to do this. This is not casual.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Signaling it. Exactly right. Very, very well said. And the second part of that is there's a huge industry that does this, that says, pay us $70,000, $80,000. We will fly you to the United States. We'll help you get through a customs and visa. We'll help you explain how to lie on your visa. Tell people you're coming as a tourist. Don't tell them you're coming to have a child.
Hide the belly.
Yeah, hide the belly, loose-fitting clothing. They'll put them in a nice condo or hotel, and primarily in California. They'll arrange all the medical procedures. They'll maintain everything that needs to be done, and then they'll ensure that they get back safely to China. That's a huge industry. You can go on the Chinese internet, which is highly, highly regulated. You've covered that, how much they censor. It's wide open. They don't stop any of that advertising from taking place. So UN USA is one of dozens of companies that are doing this, and they brag on their websites who their clients are. And their clients are, according to them, military officers, intelligence officers, CCP officials, people from the Ministry of Propaganda. So these are not dissidents. These are pillars of the elite. And UN USA is an example of one company that the Trump administration has tried very hard to clamp down on this. It's not illegal what they're doing, but what they charge them with, and I think rightfully so, is visa fraud. Because they're telling these pregnant women to lie on the visa, saying, no, I'm not coming here for a medical procedure. I'm coming here as a tourist. And that is absolutely a felony.
You mentioned that the first baby born in 2025 in Saipan was one of these anchor babies.
Yes.
And it just reminded me, regular guest on the show, Cleo Pascal, talks about the vulnerabilities in this visa structure in Saipan, which of course is under, the auspices of the US. Maybe if you could just speak a little bit to that and just that kind of bizarre reality on that island.
Yeah. Saipan, of course, is this, I guess, American outpost in the middle of the Pacific. And it has some, strategic value militarily to the United States. But because it is a U.S. territory, that means if your child is born in Saipan, according to this interpretation of the 14th Amendment, that is as good as if that child was born in California, Utah, New York, or Florida. So it creates a powerful incentive structure for Chinese nationals to go there because the visa requirements are more loosely interpreted. They want quote unquote tourists to come there because they don't get a huge number of them. And China sees that and has exploited it in a major way. So we need to look at that. We need to look at the larger issue of birth tourism. But we have to understand they are exploiting this on a massive scale. It's industrial, and we are completely oblivious to it. And we're looking at, beginning in 2030, a wave of what, according to Chinese estimates, is going to be 1 million citizens. I'm going to put that in air quotes, but they're U.S. citizens who have been raised in China. They were born here, shuttled back home, raised here. They're going to be voting in our elections. They're going to be donating to political campaigns. And let's remember the 2016 presidential election, it was settled by 72,000 votes. So 1 million votes is a lot of votes.